The grand diplomatic chamber gleamed with holographic projections and intricate alien technologies. Soft blue light cascaded across polished surfaces, creating an atmosphere of hope and possibility. Emily Rodriguez stood at the center of this momentous occasion, her 12-year-old frame both diminutive and surprisingly confident. Years of intensive preparation had led to this moment. The International Selection Committee had chosen her from thousands of candidates, recognizing her unique ability to communicate across cultural boundaries. Her multilingual skills, combined with an extraordinary empathy that seemed to transcend typical human understanding, made her the perfect representative for Earth's first comprehensive interstellar cultural exchange. The Zarkan delegation represented a civilization far older and technologically more advanced than humanity. Their crystalline exoskeletons refracted light in mesmerizing patterns, creating an almost hypnotic display of alien beauty. Translucent membranes covered what humans would recognize as sensory organs, constantly shifting and pulsing with an inner bioluminescence that spoke of complex biological mechanisms. Emily wore a carefully designed diplomatic uniform, a blend of cultural symbolism and practical design. The fabric, developed by a collaborative team of fashion designers and aerospace engineers, incorporated subtle communication technologies and adaptive materials that could respond to environmental changes. Her dark hair was braided precisely, a deliberate choice that represented both cultural tradition and personal discipline. The live broadcast reached billions across Earth and numerous alien civilizations. Multiple camera drones captured every subtle movement, every nuanced interaction. This was more than a diplomatic meeting. It was a moment of potential transformation for humanity's place in the galactic community. Diplomatic translator systems hummed with complex algorithms, working to bridge the vast linguistic and conceptual gaps between human and Zarkan communication. Emily had spent months studying xenolinguistics, learning not just the technical language of the Zarkan, but the subtle cultural context that gave meaning to their communication. "Greetings," Emily spoke, her voice clear and steady. "I bring the collective hopes of humanity for mutual understanding and peaceful cooperation." The lead Zarkan diplomat, a towering figure named Krell 7, responded with a series of complex light pulses and vibrational frequencies. The translation system worked overtime, converting the alien communication into comprehensible human language. "Your species demonstrates curiosity," Krell 7 communicated, "but curiosity can be dangerous." Something in the alien's tone shifted. The holographic displays flickered almost imperceptibly. Emily's highly trained instincts, honed through years of diplomatic preparation, sensed a sudden change in the atmospheric tension. Before anyone could react, a weapon materialized from the Zarkan diplomat's crystalline exoskeleton. It was unlike anything human technology had ever encountered, a weapon that seemed to exist between physical matter and energy, a terrifying demonstration of technologies far beyond current human understanding. The attack was swift, brutal, and broadcast to millions. Emily's final moments became etched into the collective memory of humanity. Her eyes, wide with a mixture of surprise and unexpected calm, reflected understanding that would later be described as almost prophetic. In those final seconds, she wasn't just a victim, but a catalyst, a pivotal point that would fundamentally alter the trajectory of human civilization. The diplomatic chamber erupted into chaos. Human security personnel moved with a speed that surprised even the most advanced alien observers. Communication channels exploded with a mix of horror, rage, and an emerging sense of unified purpose that would define the human response. What the Zarkan Collective had intended as a statement of dominance would instead become the most significant miscalculation in their civilization's history. They had not understood the true nature of humanity, a species capable of transforming tragedy into unprecedented innovation and resolve. As Emily's life slipped away, something profound was being born. A global consciousness, a unified human spirit that would soon reshape the understanding of what it meant to be a spacefaring civilization. The broadcast continued, capturing every moment of the unfolding horror. But beneath the immediate shock, a deeper current was forming, a response that would echo across the stars. The first images of Emily's final moments spread across global networks with unprecedented speed. Satellite communications, social media platforms, and emergency broadcast systems simultaneously transmitted the recording. What began as a moment of diplomatic hope transformed into a collective experience of shock and grief that transcended national boundaries. In Tokyo, a group of young researchers working late in a quantum physics laboratory watched the broadcast in stunned silence. Their fingers, moments before dancing across holographic interfaces, now hung motionless in the air. Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura, the lead researcher, was the first to break the silence. "We need to do something," he whispered, his voice carrying a weight of determination that would soon spread across continents. Thousands of miles away in Sao Paulo, a community center erupted with a mix of anger and resolve. Community leaders, university students, and local technicians began an impromptu strategy session. They started mapping out potential technological responses, their diverse backgrounds creating a unique collaborative environment that defied traditional bureaucratic limitations. The United Nations emergency session convened within hours of the broadcast. Representatives from every member state arrived with an unusual sense of unity. Traditional political divisions seemed to evaporate, replaced by a singular focus. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez, Emily's mother and a renowned quantum physicist, stood at the podium. Her grief was palpable, but so was her determination. "We stand at a critical moment in human history," she addressed the assembly, her voice steady despite the personal tragedy. "This is not about revenge. This is about our collective future, our right to exist, and our ability to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Global communication networks began to transform. Internet infrastructure, previously designed for information sharing and entertainment, quickly adapted to become a massive collaborative platform. Open-source research initiatives that had been working on theoretical technologies suddenly found themselves with unprecedented funding and support. Universities around the world suspended traditional academic boundaries. Engineering departments merged with medical research centers. Theoretical physicists collaborated with aerospace engineers. Computer scientists worked alongside genetic researchers. The traditional walls of academic discipline crumbled, replaced by a unified approach to understanding and responding to the alien threat. Military installations across different continents began a coordinated yet unprecedented transformation. Instead of traditional military preparations, the focus shifted to technological innovation. Weapons research merged with scientific exploration. Defensive strategies became about intelligence, adaptation, and technological superiority, rather than simple destructive capability. In the Arctic Research Station, a team of climatologists and computer engineers made a breakthrough. They discovered a way to modify quantum communication systems that could potentially create undetectable communication networks. What had been a theoretical research project now became a critical component of potential defensive strategies. The global financial markets experienced a unique phenomenon. Instead of collapsing, they redirected massive amounts of capital toward research and development. Technology companies, previously competing for market share, began sharing resources and research. Venture capital firms started funding projects that would have been considered impossible just days before. Social media platforms transformed from spaces of personal expression to global think tanks. Millions of individuals began contributing to open-source research initiatives. Engineering students, hobbyist scientists, and professional researchers created collaborative spaces that generated innovative solutions at an unprecedented rate. Space agencies from different countries, which had previously competed for funding and recognition, now combined their resources. The International Space Station became a hub of collaborative research, with scientists working around the clock to develop new technologies that could provide humanity with a defensive advantage. Educational systems worldwide underwent an immediate transformation. Curriculum shifted to emphasize critical thinking, technological innovation, and collaborative problem-solving. Schools began treating the incident not as a tragedy, but as a pivotal moment of human potential. As the day progressed, something extraordinary became clear. The attack intended to divide humanity had instead created the most unified global response in human history. Every sector of society, from government and military to education and private research, began moving with a synchronized purpose. Embely's tragic moment had become a catalyst. Humanity was no longer a collection of separate nations and competing interests. It had become a single, unified organism, adaptive, resilient, and prepared to face challenges beyond anything previously imagined. The global awakening had begun. The world's research facilities transformed overnight. Laboratories that once operated in isolation now became interconnected nodes of a global brain, processing and sharing information at speeds never before imagined. What had begun as individual research projects quickly evolved into a massive, collaborative effort to understand and counter potential alien threats. In a converted warehouse in Munich, a team of neuroscientists and quantum physicists made an unexpected breakthrough. They discovered a method to enhance human cognitive processing by creating neural network interfaces that could temporarily expand human mental capabilities. The technology, originally designed to help patients with neurological disorders, now presented a potential method of accelerating human technological development. A group of young researchers in Bangalore found a way to modify existing communication satellites. Their algorithm could create adaptive communication networks that could reconfigure themselves instantaneously, making them virtually immune to external interference. What was once a theoretical concept now became a practical defense mechanism against potential alien communication disruption. The Canadian Space Agency's Research Centre in Quebec became a focal point of unprecedented collaboration. Aerospace engineers worked alongside materials scientists, developing new types of adaptive alloys that could withstand extreme environmental conditions. These materials could potentially create spacecraft and protective systems that were light years ahead of current technology. Quantum computing labs around the world began to merge their processing capabilities. What was once a competitive field became a unified effort to solve complex computational problems. Universities in Shanghai, Boston, and Stockholm created a continuous computational network, with research teams working in rotating shifts to maximize innovation potential. Genetic research took an unexpected turn. Scientists discovered that the human genome contained dormant adaptive mechanisms that could be carefully activated. These genetic markers, previously considered junk DNA, now showed potential for rapid human adaptation to extreme environments and technological challenges. The medical research community made significant strides in understanding human physiological potential. Researchers in Cape Town developed a new approach to human enhancement that focused on adaptive biological systems. They found ways to temporarily boost human immune responses, neurological processing, and physical endurance without permanent genetic modification. Artificial intelligence systems underwent a radical transformation. Instead of being limited by predefined parameters, new AI models were developed with adaptive learning capabilities that could process and integrate information from multiple disciplines simultaneously. These systems became collaborative tools rather than simply computational machines. In a converted nuclear research facility in New Mexico, a team of theoretical physicists and energy specialists developed a breakthrough in energy generation. They created a prototype energy system that could extract power from quantum vacuum fluctuations, potentially providing unlimited clean energy with minimal environmental impact. Marine biologists and robotics engineers in Singapore developed adaptive underwater exploration technologies. Their designs could potentially create autonomous systems that could survive and operate in extreme extraterrestrial environments, drawing inspiration from the most resilient organisms on Earth. The global patent system was temporarily suspended, allowing for free sharing of critical technological innovations. What would have previously taken years of legal negotiations now became an open-source approach to technological development. Companies that once competed now shared resources and research findings. Educational institutions transformed their approach to learning. Online platforms emerged that allowed real-time collaboration between students and researchers from around the world. A student in Kenya could now directly contribute to a research project happening in Canada, breaking down traditional barriers to scientific participation. Renewable energy research accelerated at an unprecedented rate. Solar technologies that had been in development for decades suddenly saw massive breakthroughs. New materials could now convert previously unusable portions of the solar spectrum into energy, dramatically increasing efficiency. Nanotechnology research found unexpected applications. Researchers in Berlin developed microscopic robots that could potentially repair human tissue, clean environmental pollutants, and create adaptive materials that could change their properties based on environmental conditions. As days turned into weeks, it became clear that the tragic event had unleashed something profound. Humanity was not just responding to a threat, it was evolving. The innovation surge was more than a technological advancement. It was a fundamental transformation of human potential. The world was no longer waiting to be discovered. It was preparing to be the discoverer. The first strategic response emerged not as a show of military might, but as a calculated demonstration of human intelligence. Global defense leaders, working in unprecedented coordination, developed a multi-layered approach that would challenge everything the Zarkon Collective understood about human capabilities. From a command center beneath the Swiss Alps, a diverse team of strategists, scientists, and diplomatic experts began their intricate planning. The room buzzed with holographic displays showing real-time data from global networks, satellite systems, and newly developed quantum communication channels. Each team member represented a different discipline, a deliberate strategy to ensure multi-perspective thinking. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, leading the strategic planning team, outlined the primary objective. Our goal is not destruction, she explained to the assembled experts, but to demonstrate our capabilities and protect our civilization. Her words carried the weight of both personal loss and scientific precision. The first strike would be technological, not physical. Sophisticated algorithms developed by a global network of computer scientists began to infiltrate Zarkon communication systems. Instead of causing damage, these digital probes were designed to gather information and create strategic confusion. The goal was to demonstrate human capabilities without immediate escalation. Satellite networks, previously used for communication and observation, were rapidly reconfigured into a complex defensive grid. New adaptive technologies allowed these satellites to change their configuration instantaneously, creating a dynamic shield around Earth that could respond to potential threats in milliseconds. In the Pacific Ocean, a series of underwater research stations transformed into advanced monitoring platforms. These facilities, originally designed for marine research, now housed cutting-edge technologies that could detect and analyze extraterrestrial signals with unprecedented accuracy. Their location made them virtually undetectable to conventional scanning methods. Diplomatic channels remained open, but with a new approach. Instead of traditional negotiations, human representatives began sending carefully crafted messages that demonstrated both technological sophistication and a nuanced understanding of interstellar dynamics. Each communication was a strategic move, designed to reveal just enough to create uncertainty among the Zarkon leadership. Space exploration programs accelerated their timelines. Multiple nations collaborated to develop a new generation of spacecraft that could operate in environments previously considered impossible. These vessels were more than transportation. They were mobile research platforms capable of adapting to extreme conditions. Cybersecurity teams developed adaptive defense systems that could learn and respond to potential threats in real time. These systems went beyond traditional firewall approaches, creating dynamic protective networks that could reorganize themselves instantaneously. Economic strategies played a crucial role in the overall approach. Global financial systems were reconfigured to create economic pressure points that could influence Zarkon decision-making. Trade policies, resource allocation, and technological exchanges became sophisticated tools of strategic communication. The medical research community contributed to the strategy by developing rapid response protocols for potential biological interactions. They created adaptive protection systems that could quickly respond to unknown environmental or biological threats, ensuring human survival in unprecedented scenarios. Educational institutions became critical components of the strategic response. Universities worldwide began developing comprehensive programs focused on extraterrestrial communication, adaptive technologies, and multidimensional strategic thinking. The next generation of leaders was being prepared for a new era of global cooperation. Quantum communication networks emerged as a critical strategic asset. These networks could transmit information instantaneously, creating a communication system that was virtually undetectable and impossible to intercept. What had been theoretical research now became a practical defensive tool. Indigenous knowledge systems were integrated into the strategic approach. Traditional wisdom from cultures around the world provided unique perspectives on adaptation, survival, and strategic thinking. This holistic approach challenged conventional military strategic models. As the days progressed, it became clear that humanity's response was unlike anything the Zarkon Collective had encountered. This was not a simple military confrontation, but a multidimensional strategic approach that defied traditional understanding of conflict. The human strategy was becoming something more than a response to a threat. It was an evolution, a demonstration of a species capable of transforming challenge into opportunity. The first signals of humanity's response rippled across interstellar communication networks. Alien civilizations that had observed Earth as a nascent species now witnessed something entirely unexpected. The human approach was unlike any response previously recorded in galactic historical archives. The Moravian Collective, a confederation of advanced civilizations near the galactic core, convened an emergency council. Their holographic meeting chamber filled with representatives from various star systems, each processing the emerging information about humanity's strategic response. Translucent data streams danced around them, displaying complex analysis of human actions. They are not responding with typical linear aggression, observed Zinra, the lead analyst from the Proxima Research Cluster. Her multifaceted sensory organs shifted in patterns that conveyed deep contemplation. Their approach suggests a level of adaptive intelligence we have not previously encountered. Diplomatic channels became inundated with requests for information. Smaller galactic civilizations that had maintained passive observation of Earth now moved to active investigation. Universities across multiple star systems began dedicating research teams to understanding the human response. The Quantum Communication Network, a galaxy-spanning information exchange, buzzed with unprecedented activity. Civilizations that had previously dismissed humanity as a primitive species now found themselves reassessing every piece of historical data about human potential. Deep space monitoring stations recalibrated their systems. The technologies humanity was demonstrating challenged existing understanding of technological development. What had appeared to be simple communication and defensive systems revealed layers of complexity that suggested something more profound was occurring. Scientific research teams from the Orion Collaborative began compiling comprehensive reports. They analyzed human technological developments, communication strategies, and collective response mechanisms. Each layer of investigation revealed more questions than answers. Diplomatic envoys from various star systems found themselves in an unusual position. The traditional approaches of intimidation and hierarchical communication suddenly seemed obsolete. Humanity was not responding according to any known interstellar conflict protocols. The Zarkon Collective's communication networks became increasingly disrupted. Their internal systems, once considered impenetrable, now showed unexpected vulnerabilities. Intelligence reports suggested that human technological probes had created complex disruption patterns that went beyond simple cyber interference. Educational institutions across multiple star systems began incorporating human case studies into their strategic research programs. What was happening was more than a conflict. It was a potential paradigm shift in understanding interstellar interactions. Xenoanthropologists found themselves rewriting existing theories about species development. Humanity's response suggested a level of collective intelligence that defied previous classificational models. They were not just responding to a threat. They were fundamentally transforming their entire societal infrastructure. The economic impact began to ripple across interstellar trade networks. Civilizations that had previously maintained trading relationships with the Zarkon Collective now hesitated. The human response suggested potential technological capabilities that could dramatically alter existing power structures. Quantum communication networks captured fragments of human communications. Research teams spent countless cycles analyzing these transmissions, finding layers of meaning that went far beyond simple linguistic communication. It was as if humanity was speaking an entirely new language of strategic interaction. Smaller civilizations that had been marginalized by larger galactic powers began to take notice. Humanity's response suggested a potential new model of collective action that could challenge existing interstellar political structures. The Moravian Collective's final report was unprecedented. "We are observing," the report concluded, "a species in the process of fundamental transformation." Their response is not just a reaction to a singular event, but appears to be a systematic elevation of their collective capabilities. As galactic observers continued their analysis, a profound realization began to take shape. Humanity was not just responding to a threat. They were rewriting the very understanding of what a developing species could become. The perspective was shifting. Humanity was no longer just another emerging civilization. They were becoming something entirely unexpected, a wild card in the galactic ecosystem. The research facility in Geneva looked more like a living organism than a traditional laboratory. Walls seemed to breathe with technological potential, holographic displays dancing with complex genetic sequences. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of a breakthrough that would redefine human understanding of biological potential. Emily's genetic profile had become the key to an extraordinary discovery. What initially appeared to be random genetic markers now revealed themselves as an intricate system of adaptive mechanisms. The young girl's DNA contained sequences that suggested a level of evolutionary potential far beyond current scientific understanding. Genetic researchers from around the world worked in perfect synchronization. Their collaborative efforts transcended traditional research boundaries. Each discovery seemed to unlock another layer of complexity in Emily's genetic structure. What had begun as an analysis of a tragic loss was transforming into a profound scientific revolution. The first breakthrough came unexpectedly. A research team in Johannesburg identified a unique protein sequence that could potentially allow for rapid genetic adaptation. This was not simple genetic modification, but a dynamic system that could respond to environmental challenges with unprecedented speed and precision. Quantum biologists discovered something even more remarkable. Emily's genetic structure contained adaptive markers that seemed to communicate across cellular levels in ways previously thought impossible. It was as if her DNA contained a sophisticated communication network that could instantaneously share information and modify cellular responses. Neurological research took an unexpected turn. Brain scan technologies revealed that Emily's neural pathways displayed characteristics of extreme adaptability. Regions of the brain that were typically considered fixed showed remarkable plasticity, suggesting a potential for human cognitive evolution that challenged every existing scientific model. The medical research community began to understand the broader implications. These genetic discoveries were not just about understanding a single individual. They represented a potential key to human adaptability, a blueprint for how the human species might evolve to meet extraordinary challenges. Collaborative research platforms emerged globally. Universities, research centers, and independent scientists shared their findings in real time. What would have taken decades of traditional research was now being processed and analyzed within weeks. The global scientific community had become a single, synchronized research organism. Ethical considerations became a critical part of the research. Teams of philosophers, geneticists, and social scientists worked together to understand the implications of these discoveries. They were not just exploring scientific potential, but the very nature of human evolution and adaptability. The quantum computing network developed specialized algorithms to analyze the genetic data. These were not simple computational processes, but adaptive systems that could learn and modify their own analytical approaches. Each pass through the data revealed new layers of complexity. International research foundations redirected massive resources into this new field of study. What had been marginal research areas suddenly became primary focus points. Genetic adaptation, neural plasticity, and evolutionary potential became the most critical areas of scientific investigation. Interdisciplinary teams began to emerge. Geneticists worked alongside quantum physicists. Neurologists collaborated with computational experts. The traditional boundaries between scientific disciplines dissolved, replaced by a holistic approach to understanding human potential. The breakthrough went beyond simple scientific discovery. It was becoming clear that Emily's genetic profile represented something more profound. This was not just about understanding human potential, but about recognizing a fundamental shift in how humanity might interact with its own evolutionary process. Communication technologies developed to share these discoveries created unprecedented levels of global collaboration. A researcher in Tokyo could immediately share findings with colleagues in Sao Paulo. The speed of scientific discovery accelerated exponentially. As the research progressed, a profound realization began to take shape. The tragic event that had seemed like a moment of absolute loss was transforming into something else entirely. Emily was becoming a symbol of human potential, a beacon of hope that suggested the species was capable of extraordinary transformation. The breakthrough moment was more than a scientific discovery. It was the beginning of a new understanding of what it meant to be human. The diplomatic chambers of the Interstellar Communication Network hummed with an unprecedented energy. Something extraordinary was happening within the Zarkon collective, a transformation that no one had anticipated. Internal communications began to fracture. Junior members of the Zarkon leadership started questioning the actions that had led to the confrontation with humanity. What had seemed like a moment of absolute power was now revealing itself as a critical miscalculation. Zinra, a mid-level administrative officer in the Zarkon Communication Network, discovered something unexpected. Hidden within the communication logs was evidence that the attack on Emily was not a unanimous decision. Buried communications suggested internal disagreement that had been carefully suppressed. The research into human genetic potential had created unexpected ripple effects. As scientific discoveries spread across interstellar communication networks, they began to challenge fundamental assumptions about species development and potential. The Zarkon collective found itself confronting questions it had never before considered. Diplomatic channels that had been completely severed began to show signs of potential reconnection. Smaller factions within the Zarkon society started to emerge. Groups that saw the human response as an opportunity for understanding rather than continued conflict. Quantum communication networks captured fragments of internal Zarkon discussions. Research teams working on translation algorithms discovered complex emotional undertones that suggested deep internal conflict. The monolithic image of the Zarkon collective was beginning to fracture. Scientific teams from multiple star systems began to analyze the human response. What had initially been viewed as a potential threat was now being studied as a unique model of collective adaptation. The interdisciplinary approach humanity had demonstrated challenged existing models of species development. Within the Zarkon leadership, a generational divide became increasingly apparent. Younger members of their society had been exposed to human communication patterns, scientific discoveries, and cultural exchanges. They saw potential where their predecessors saw only threat. Diplomatic backchannels began to activate. Small groups of Zarkon representatives started seeking unofficial communication pathways with human diplomatic teams. These were not formal negotiations, but exploratory conversations that suggested a potential for mutual understanding. The genetic research surrounding Emily's profile became a point of fascination. Zarkon xenobiologists found themselves deeply intrigued by the adaptive potential demonstrated in human genetic structures. What had been viewed as a simple biological system was revealing itself to be extraordinarily complex. communication technologies developed new adaptive translation algorithms. These systems went beyond simple language conversion, attempting to bridge conceptual and cultural gaps that had previously seemed insurmountable. Each communication became an opportunity for deeper understanding. Internal Zarkon social systems began to show signs of transformation. The rigid hierarchical structure that had defined their civilization for millennia started to show unexpected flexibility. Younger members of their society began to challenge existing power structures, inspired by the human demonstration of collective potential. Philosophical debates emerged within Zarkon research institutions. What did it mean to be an advanced civilization? The human response suggested a model of development that was fundamentally different from their own understanding of species progression. Economic analysis teams within the Zarkon collective began to recognize the potential benefits of communication over conflict. The resources expended in the initial confrontation were becoming increasingly difficult to justify. A new perspective was emerging, one of potential collaboration rather than destruction. Cultural exchange programs that had been suspended were quietly being reconsidered. Younger Zarkon researchers began proposing new models of interspecies communication and understanding. The rigid boundaries that had defined their civilization were beginning to show unexpected permeability. As these internal transformations progressed, a profound realization began to take shape. The confrontation was becoming something entirely unexpected. It was no longer about conflict, but about the potential for mutual understanding. The unexpected connections were revealing a fundamental truth. Civilizations, like living organisms, were capable of profound transformation. Humanity had become more than just a potential threat. They were becoming a catalyst for change. The United Nations Interstellar Assembly convened in a facility that was part conference center, part technological marvel. Holographic displays surrounded the circular chamber, showing real-time data streams from research facilities, diplomatic channels, and space exploration platforms around the world. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stepped forward, carrying with her more than just scientific findings. She carried the legacy of her daughter, the catalyst that had transformed human civilization. Her presentation was more than a scientific report. It was a testament to human potential. We stand at a moment of fundamental transformation. She began, her voice resonating through the chamber. The holographic displays behind her showed a complex tapestry of scientific discoveries, technological innovations, and diplomatic breakthroughs that had emerged in the months since Emily's tragic death. Global communication networks had evolved into something far beyond their original purpose. What had begun as simple information-sharing platforms had become adaptive systems of collective intelligence. Universities, research centers, and independent researchers now worked in a continuous, synchronized network that transcended national boundaries. The technological innovations developed during this period were reshaping every aspect of human society. Energy production had been revolutionized by quantum vacuum energy extraction. Transportation systems now utilized adaptive materials that could modify their structural properties in real time. Medical technologies had advanced to the point where genetic adaptation was becoming a realistic approach to treating previously incurable conditions. Space exploration programs had accelerated beyond all previous expectations. Multiple international missions were now exploring regions of space that had previously been considered unreachable. The technologies developed in response to the initial confrontation had opened up entirely new possibilities for human expansion. Diplomatic channels with various alien civilizations had been transformed. The Zarkon Collective, once viewed as an absolute threat, was now engaged in complex diplomatic negotiations. Smaller alien civilizations that had previously been marginalized now found themselves in direct communication with human representatives. The genetic research surrounding Emily's unique biological markers had led to profound discoveries about human potential. Scientists had developed a deeper understanding of human adaptability, neuroplasticity, and the complex communication systems within human biological structures. Educational systems worldwide had been completely redesigned. Interdisciplinary approaches became the norm. Students were now trained to think in complex, adaptive ways that broke down traditional boundaries between scientific disciplines. Critical thinking, collaborative problem-solving, and adaptive intelligence became the primary focus of global education. Economic systems had undergone a radical transformation. The traditional competitive models had been replaced by collaborative approaches that emphasized collective innovation. Resources were now allocated based on potential for collective advancement rather than individual profit. Environmental restoration technologies developed during this period had begun to address global climate challenges. Adaptive technologies could now actively repair ecological systems, remove environmental pollutants, and create sustainable infrastructure that worked in harmony with natural systems. The initial tragedy had become a turning point. What could have been a moment of absolute destruction had instead become a catalyst for human evolution. The collective response had demonstrated a level of adaptability and potential that redefined understanding of human capabilities. Diplomatic representatives from various star systems looked on with a mixture of fascination and respect. Humanity was no longer viewed as a young, potentially dangerous species. They were now seen as a dynamic, innovative civilization capable of profound transformation. The Zarkon Collective had undergone its own internal revolution. Younger members of their society had embraced the potential for mutual understanding. Diplomatic channels that had once been completely severed were now active conduits of cultural and scientific exchange. As Dr. Rodriguez concluded her presentation, the chamber fell silent. The holographic displays showed a complex network of human achievements, scientific discoveries, and potential future developments. It was clear that something extraordinary had occurred. Humanity had not just survived. They had transformed. The legacy of a single moment had rewritten the potential of an entire species.